Okay, we've taken a look at supply individually, we've taken a look at demand individually. Now what we need to do, since we said a market is a place where buyers and sellers mutually come together to buy and sell goods, we need now to put the two of them together. What I've done is I've taken our demand schedule and our supply schedule, and I've made a picture on one graph of them. I have my supply curve and I have my demand curve. And there's only at one point where the two of them meet. In this case, it is $3.35 units, 35 units of whatever product, corn that we're talking about, 35 bushels of corn. At this particular point, this is capitalism at its finest. This is the market system, I should say, at its finest. The ability to take two opposing forces, the ability to synchronize a point where buying and selling conditions are created. We call this equilibrium. This is the point where quantity demanded is equal to quantity supplied. If you think of eBay, this is what eBay is. eBay is a market. And you bid. And when you bid finally and nobody else bids, that is the equilibrium point. I agree to sell you that particular product at that price and you agree to buy it at that price. It's a commitment, if you will. But there has to be a reason why this is the only point, other than the book pointed it out. There has to be a magnet of some kind. There has to be something dragging me or pulling me into both areas so that, from above and below, so that $3 is the equilibrium price. The thing is this. At a point of $1, I have what is called excess demand. Or, more specifically, I have a shortage. And a shortage can be defined at the point where quantity demanded is greater than quantity supplied. I have one Blu-ray DVD player in here and 10 people want it. Well, obviously the person I'm going to sell it to is the person that pays me the highest price. So therefore shortages drive prices up. Subsequent to that, $5 isn't the equilibrium price because at $5, I have excess supply, or I have a surplus of goods. And in this case, quantity supplied is greater than quantity demanded. I have 10 Blu-ray DVD players in here, and I only have 4 students, and I need to get rid of them. Well, the only way to do that is to drop the price. And so therefore, a shortage in a particular product will increase the price, surpluses will decrease the price until we finally mutually agree, in this case, that I will sell you 35 bushels of corn at $3 a bushel. And you will buy that amount, and you will buy that amount. Now, what we want to take a look at is how price can change in a market system. A lot of students think that you need numbers to graph, and that without numbers, graphing can't go on. So we want to dispel that right now and simply draw my graph, draw a demand curve, draw a supply curve. I have my quantity here. We can no longer call it quantity demanded or quantity supplied because we're talking about two different variables, 0 and my price. At the point of intersection where quantity demanded is equal to quantity supplied, I have my price at equilibrium and I have my quantity at equilibrium. We just drew a graph without numbers. If we were to say that the Surgeon General came down and said, if you eat more corn, you will never get cancer. If that happens, a change in taste, if we go back to the non-price determinants of demand, change in taste will make us increase our demand from D to D prime. It will be a movement to the right. My equilibrium, now have a new equilibrium. Price goes from price PE to PE prime, and my quantity goes from QE to QE prime. It is a movement. My demand curve moved along my supply curve, causing the price to go up, and because of the law of demand, we know that if price goes up, quantity goes up likewise. We can show the same with supply. And if we take a look at supply, the same graph, my quantity, zero price, downward sloping demand curve, upward sloping supply curve, my price and quantity at equilibrium. Let's assume that you are a lumber company and right now you're harvesting 100 trees a day. And the government comes down and says you can now only harvest 30 trees a day because you're destroying the habitat of some of the wildlife. If you in fact cut down more than 30 trees a day, you will be taxed. And if that happens, my profits go down. And because of that, I decide now to decrease my supply, keeping the price of the good the same. Ceteris paribus. Supply moves from S to S prime. It is a movement on my demand curve, causing my price to increase from PE to PE prime. And we know that with demand, the law of demand states that there's an inverse relationship between price and quantity, causes my quantity at equilibrium to go down. So therefore, we can graph without numbers. We can do any type of market analysis for any particular situation. If you wanted to take crime and punishment, what is the correlation between that? What happens if a crime is less punishable? Perhaps maybe more crime will be committed or what have you. So this ends demand and supply. We've covered it extremely quickly. Again, if you have any issues with this, post them on the discussion page, board page of Blackboard, and email me personally. I will then put the answer on Blackboard. Very important that we keep the lines of communication open. Thank you. Have a good day.